So what did you all think of our President Underwood? So Claire Underwood becoming the first female president has always been in the cards from what I understand. Last season ended with a game-changing quote from you where you say, "My turn," which is very exciting. So how did it feel when you first stepped into the role of the first female president?
I told them the other day, I felt like I was not allowed to be looking into the camera at the end of season 5. I was like, that's not my place. I can't do that. And then once you own it, you feel like you're in the room with all of you. You really are, you're complicit with me, you know? And then it's very freeing, the feeling of powerfulness.
Well, and then this episode ends with you putting on Frank's ring and giving the middle finger. So two powerful episode enders. A lot has happened in between. What did it feel like to film that statement? And should we take that as a sign as to what is to come from Claire's resolve this season?
I want you guys to, why did we decide that?
Well, I mean, I think one of the big themes for the season is who owns the White House. And I think, you know, Claire had a little bit of she'd been receiving a lot of messages this episode about various people trying to own her, including her dead husband. And I think Claire's feeling like no one's the boss of her.
Frank, do you have anything to add?
No, I mean, the idea about who owns the White House is something we started thinking about in season 5. And I think you brought up the idea about the direct address and what's unique to Claire's direct address. And in a way, that last gesture is some form of direct address. But it's both a statement and a warning and it pretty much says, beware, and I'm here, and it says a lot of things just in a gesture, which is true to how she does direct addresses as opposed to how Frances did them.
This is sort of a Declaration of Independence episode.
Yeah. Right.
For Claire.
Yeah.
It is exciting because we didn't see Claire do that, and who knows what we could believe Frances was saying when he did do that. And Claire very early says, "I'm telling you the truth." So how do you view Claire's relationship with the audience? And then to you guys, can we trust her as much as she's saying?
Well, that was a big part of the discussion, is how is her relationship with the audience going to be different than Frances's? And Frank would always say, he's always campaigning to you guys, always was. No matter what he was unveiling, sharing, or lying about, he was campaigning for your attention and for your loyalty. And she is saying, not only am I going to tell you the truth, but I'm going to let you know how vulnerable I am as well, how scared I am sometimes, and posing questions to the audience,
Sure.
wanting their help.
Can we take her for her word at the moment?
I think you should ask Doug Stamper that question.
Never. I mean, but she's negotiating her trust. I mean, she's negotiating the trust of the audience, and the show has always sort of been a meditation on an exploration of complicity. You know, Claire's complicity with the audience and trying to get people on board, and then there's her version of what that complicity is, and trust is a big part of that. And there's a moment where you go past the words, and it's the actions and the emotions. You know, there's many ways to trust the character, you know, so it's not just the words. So it becomes about that. So the question is actually what we were working towards. Like, we want the audience to ask the question you're asking.
This is definitely a transformational episode for Claire. She's releasing Frances in many ways, it seems. What was the decision behind, in the first scene, letting us know Frances's fate? Did you guys toy with dragging that out, or did you want to get that on right away?
I mean, we didn't want to be coy about it. We didn't want to run away from it. I think it would have been a big mistake to in any way pretend the character didn't exist or to erase the character somehow. I mean, you know, our way forward, the way we figured out the way forward was basically to dig into the DNA of the show and honor, you know, the seeds of it and figure out, you know, what made sense as the next step. And, you know, Claire, this season, there's a lot of reckoning, and she's reckoning with her past with Francis and setting her own course and her own terms, which was happening anyway. I mean, this has been an organic progression. As you say, season 5 ended with her looking into the camera and saying, my turn. So,
Yeah, I mean, it obviously, the season had to be reworked to write Frank out, but so much of it seemed to have been set up. How much did you guys have to unravel to deliver this final season that we're going to see?
I mean, but you brought it up in the beginning. No matter what, the statement at the end of season 5 set up a certain amount of expectations and actually made a promise to the audience that that's what we would explore. So in a way, yeah, I mean, it's a version of, we had to do another version of what this last season would be, but it was always about her turn. It was always about, you know, when we started on the show, we talked about the fact that at the core of the show was about a marriage, right? So it was about so that's always been there. And during the course of the marriage, they're, you know, exploring their relationship, the ups and downs of it. And within that, there's the ascension of Claire Underwood while Francis sort of descends in a way. And that was going to happen no matter what. So yes, I mean, there's certain specifics, and we had to regroup, and we had to write quickly, and we just, like, you know, went for it. But that was always there, that it was about her turn, and it was about a character sort of ascending, becoming, you know, ascending while another one was going down. That was always there.
right, I mean, they've always been, the show, I mean, the heart of the show is the, you know, the two of them negotiating the terms of this very peculiar marriage and relationship. And I think one of the questions underneath everything is as well, like, who owns the narrative, you know, the battle for the narrative. And I think that's still going on. And in fact, you know, Doug Stamper enters into it as well, I think more than ever this season. But, you know, Claire still has to, it's not that Frank, the deeds they did together, it's not like they evaporate and go away. I mean, Claire's still negotiating her complicity and the past, even now.
And just because Francis isn't on screen, the essence of Francis is there because it's part of what the story was telling over years anyway. It had to be there, you know.
Well, Claire does not seem upset that he's gone. But Doug is very upset. So, you know, what is Doug's headspace like when we first see him this season? Doug without Frank is an interesting thing to wrap your head around. So how did you do that?
With a lot of help from these guys. You know, I mean, he's lost, right? This is the first time that you really saw this character just like, oh shit, what now? You know, what is my life? What have I been doing? And sort of questioning everything, but at the same time wanting to honor what was before, you know, and continue that. But lost, I guess, is probably the best way to describe it.
You said something great today. We did an interview earlier today. He looked at me, he's like, I was a better wife. And it's so true. You were a better wife to him.
Yeah.
And so he's mourning his husband.
But
Unlike her, she's like, great, let's go. Moving on.
you shipped him out last
Yeah.
season. He was gone. That is a very good point.
And it's infuriating to him, that behavior from her. It doesn't even make sense to him, you know, even knowing what they are, what they've always been. It just, he's not doing a very good job of accepting it.
Well, and the relationship between Doug and Claire is such an interesting one. A lot of history, so many secrets. How do you view their relationship where we are right now, and how will we see it evolve this season? And was that fun for you too, personally, to play?
I mean, come on, get to act with her. Yeah, it was awesome. You know, I had a great time doing it. as far as the complexity of the story of that, that's probably better left to these guys. But as an actor, to get to share the screen with Robin was, I mean, it was incredible. You know, we'd always been, any scene we were ever in before always involved Frances or someone else. We never had these one-on-one scenes before. I mean, very rarely if we did. And so that was, I mean, as an actor, come on, it was a dream. Yeah, you get it.
And how do you two view that relationship, and how important is it to this final season?
Well, these two carry all the secrets. They know pretty much everything about each other and everything that's happened on the show. They're the two remaining characters who are in that position. So it's dangerous and it's powerful, and they can't avoid dealing with each other. So it's a constant renegotiation of.
It's great. I mean, they are the most dangerous people. They are the most dangerous characters to each other, and yet, because of how this has all been set up and how they were isolated, because of all the years of working with Frances and all that they've done, they're the only ones. They're the only characters they can rely on. So they're both the most dangerous characters to each other, and the only characters they can rely on.
Yeah, they're each other's
So
salvation in a way as well.
Yeah, it's going to be rough. Whatever happens, it's going to be hard to figure out.
You know, after last season, I spoke with Melissa, and I asked about if Doug will find his way back to the White House, and she said, Doug Stamper will never be sidelined, very emphatically. So what do his ambitions look like now to you?
I mean, it's a figuring out, right? It's that he's constantly trying to figure out the next move for the entirety of the season, you know, and a lot of it is happening to him as he goes along. You know, he's figuring it out. It's so hard to say without giving stuff away, so I'll probably just leave it at that. But it's crazy, man. It's crazy.
But he's had the rug pulled out from him. I mean, his entire life has been defined, or his life on the show anyway, it's been defined by his relationship with Frances. And
yeah, and I think
happening
without Frances and everything that happened to him in season 5, it's amazing. Like in this season, it became an amazing opportunity because he's forced to confront and face his humanity, or who he is as a human. So he ends up being like the voice of humanity for a lot of the show, which on our show is a dangerous place to be. You know, like you're taken advantage of, or you're in your days are numbered. But I mean, like, you know, that became a great thing to explore with the character, which is like, I'm feeling some human, I'm feeling my humanity, you know.
I would say, you know, this season, both these characters are sort of by circumstances forced to face themselves in you know, maybe to a greater degree than ever, and hopefully we get to know them. But you know, without Frances out front, you know, I think more layers get revealed.
Yeah.
Well, even in Frances's wake, we see this new shepherd family coming to challenge Claire, which your scenes with Diane are very exciting already. How do you describe that relationship between the two women?
I don't know how to not give away the rest. I mean, you know that we have history, right? In the first, okay.
But we don't quite know what.
I don't know, you guys, I don't know, I'm going to be a spoiler. I know it.
They have a history. They have
Okay.
a history
It's
that
also-
will be.
Yeah, but it was also exciting to see two women that powerful, you know, both with different ideas of how to manifest their power, going at each other on screen, which just seemed like just a great opportunity to play with that.
But it's also, yeah, that because they have this history, they knew each other before she was who she is.
That's right.
And so there's not,
Which not many people that we've seen on the show.
exactly.
That's interesting.
They know the true Claire.
Yeah.
She does.
What were these characters conceived, and were they always in the plan, or did they come up in the reworking?
I mean, we wanted to sort of pull back the curtain, or the curtain behind the curtain, or something. I mean, really, like the power behind the power was, you know, one of the what we wanted to explore. And you know, it's sort of what Francis was promising at the end of season 5 was that he was going to be a power broker and kind of own the White House and you know, essentially Claire as well. And the Shepherds represent the characters that were a key component of that partnership. So they're stepping forward. I mean, really, all the characters are stepping forward to fill the void, the power void left in Francis's wake. The show, the world of the show has been very destabilized.
Yeah, I mean, we always, like we said, we always wanted to make sure that we got to a point where we, you know, we explored what it means to be president and what it means to sort of capture the White House. And then it felt like once that's established, there's powers outside the White House, which I think become more obvious every day, that have a lot to do with what's happening inside the White House. So we wanted to play with that. And I agree with Melissa, once Francis was gone, it actually turned out to be an opportunity to see who would jockey to try to fill that void and who was actually going to be the power behind the power, who was actually going to be the one that owns the president. And in this case, we had a president who wants to own herself. So it was, conflict was just inherent.
Well, we also, from the very first minutes, get a sense of what it's like to be the first female president. The threats are times 10, there's assassination attempts. She's being asked questions she knows she wouldn't be asked if she was a man. Are these the types of challenges you guys imagine a real first president would face? And how did it feel playing that?
Well, I mean, in the first episode out of the gate, I mean, she's both the grieving widow first lady and the first female sitting president. And it's sort of, you know, she kind of can't win because, you know, as we've said, everyone's trying to manipulate and own and determine, you know, what that looks like. And is the world of the show, let alone the real world, you know, ready for a female president? And that's part of what we're exploring. But
yeah, and a lot of that discussion was all this adversity she's going to be up against, which is basically big money, which is what the Shepherd family represent, corporate America, and then men in DC. I mean, she was going to be up against so she's a soloist. And the only way for her to strategically, masterfully succeed is I'm going to gain friends so I can make enemies. Get them first, and then, you know.
Smart strategy.
Yeah.
and she's got a vice president she can't trust. She can't really trust anyone.
Can't trust anybody. Except the audience.
Right.
How much of the climate influences that? I mean, I know you guys have been writing this theme for a long time.
I mean, to the question right before, specifically, we do talk to a lot of consultants, and I think it would be undeniable. I mean, if there was a female president, she would face, you know, just an enormous amount of more threats than if she wasn't female, whatever. You know, I mean, that's just something we knew. So we play with that. I mean, look, I think the show, in a sense, is symptomatic. We try to be symptomatic of the times the way it seems government itself is symptomatic of the times. So you could say our show is one product of the moment, of the culture, or whatever's in the air. The same way, however Trump got in office is symptomatic of the culture in the moment and whatever's in the air. So we don't really try to talk to that or react to it. We just sort of responding to the same stuff that's in the air and trying to create drama out of it.
Is it an extra challenge when you're dealing with the White House that we are dealing with at the moment to create a political thriller?
Well, as you said this morning, I mean, the White House has become the TV show. So.
Yeah, I said I think the thing that's tough is that the most terrifying thing is not that we may be like politics, is that politics has become like a TV show. Look, our job as dramatists is to keep stuff unresolved. I mean, you would hope politics is about consensus. But it seems that politics is trying to keep things unresolved and sort of be some perverse idea of entertainment to keep themselves relevant. It seems an unhealthy way to be relevant. It's our job to create the drama. They should try to just be consensuous.
I mean, have you guys had that moment where something in the script just happened in real life or vice versa, and you kind of are very freaked out?
Yep. And then it's like, they stole our idea. And then,
Back to the
how are we
writer's
going
room.
to top that one? We can't top it.
We're no longer the crazy show.
You were not crazy.
I mean, I just want to say we had a lot of conversations season 5, and we ended up with my turn. And I don't know, it felt like it was maybe indicative of something was in the air before it hit the mainstream,
Yeah.
as an example.
Well, now we're all excited to see what you have ahead. I mean, when you guys did get back on set and it's the final season and you're saying goodbye to the show, you've been these characters for years. What was that like? And I mean, as an actor, you know, Robin, you're also directing, producing, but to put your acting hat on for a second, did that push you guys to take different risks? Were you emotionally involved? I mean, what was that like to know that you're marching towards the end?
It was very important to give the people what they deserve. Where you think, okay, we're closing this out. This is 6 years. And what they're up against every year is we never know if we're getting picked up next year. So you go, whoa, we have 4 episodes left in, say, season 3. We could potentially be ending the show in 4 episodes from now. So they have to have script version A over here if that happens, and then if we get picked up, then we can extend that idea to next year. Juggling those balls all the time. As writers and producers and actors, you know, we're always changing the puzzle pieces. And it's invigorating and it's exhausting, and you got to be quick on your feet. So it's very intense, and it was bittersweet to say goodbye. You always want to put a character to bed, don't you? Like when you're done, and sometimes it's melancholic, but this was huge. It's so different than making a movie, because a movie, it's 6, 8, 10, 12 weeks, and you say goodbye, and you never see those people again. This was 6 years, 5, 6 days a week, 14 hours a day. We were married. We spent more time than we spent with our family. So many tears.
Yeah.
That last night, right?
Yeah, oh my God. I mean, that you know, first of all, to do it, to move forward the way that everybody came together, Netflix and MRC, these guys, Robin, we all talked, and we got to do this. We have to finish this for, you know, this was Netflix's first original streaming show. We're like, we have to finish this show for the crew that we've been with for 6 years, that we know all their families now, that we're good friends with these people. To wrap it all up, to bring it to a conclusion, was so important to all of us sitting here right now. I think for me, the hardest part as an actor this season was, I'm very sentimental, and like, so every time I would drive to Baltimore from New York every weekend or whatever, whenever I went back, I'd be like, wow, is that like, what, 12 more drives, you know? And then I'm like, and like, as you get closer and closer, you're like, oh shit, I might not see, you know, V for, you know, we always knew that by the time we finished, we had a pretty good indication, like Robin said, of whether we were going back or not. So you knew, okay, cool, I'll see you in 6 months or whatever. And just knowing the whole season that you didn't have that you weren't going to see a lot of these people again. For me, it was really hard to, I mean, I would be studying in my apartment there in Baltimore, and my mind would just go off for an hour thinking about, wow, it's really over. I have kind of a little bit of ADD anyway, so. If I go back, oh, I gotta memorize. So for me, that was the hardest challenge. And that last day, my God.
Nobody said goodbye, the word goodbye. They all said, see you later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just so sweet.
I remember, just real quick, I remember the last night, the last scene. And when they said, you know, that's a wrap on Michael fucking Kelly, that's what they called me. I'm not saying that. That's a wrap on Michael fucking Kelly. And then, you know, I said, I was like, guys, I'm gonna try to get a couple words. I just want to say how much I love they brought the whole crew in. I said, I just want to say how much I love all you guys and how much, and I just started bawling. I was like, Robin, and Robin's like, okay. So she cried later. She got a full speech out. It was awesome, and I was just crying.
Can I just say, can't you tell like what a great actor this man is? What he does on screen versus his ears. I know. Nothing like his character.
Nothing like Doug. Well, Robin, you directed the finale, which is exciting. You're returning to the director's chair. You know, you've seen other actors talk about the struggle to maintain focus. Are you comfortable now taking your acting hat off and jumping behind camera and vice versa?
Yeah, there it became second nature. Truthfully, it was just like, do I really have to get in front of the camera? Because I just want to get behind it.
They don't need you in the finale.
I was like, can somebody just put that wig on? Get that Prada dress. Because it's so different being involved with all of the departments. Every single person in every department is an architect of that building. So when they say directed by, it's not directed by. We're all a part of the direction. And that kind of collaboration is incredible. Because as an actor, you're very much alone. You're in your trailer, reading your lines by yourself, you're talking the lines to yourself, you're making your choices by yourself, and then you come on set and you do a little bit of a rehearsal with the other actor. But for the most part, you're working solo on your character. And as a director, you have to have your hands in every pot and be open to all kinds of suggestions and people inspiring you outside of your box that you get locked in as a director, you know? It's definitely exhausting doing all of those things at the same time, but so much fun and such a gift that I was given the opportunity to direct on that show with that family, with that support system, and very skilled technicians. Our crew, you know, our camera guy has been in the business 45 years behind a camera. He worked with Oliver Stone and Michael Mann, and he taught me, this is how you set up a shot, and this is the lens you should use. I got cinema school with these people, so very grateful.
And I mean, what are the types of pressures you guys face when it comes to making a series finale? It's a big deal.
Well, you know, just listening to you guys talk, I mean, it was correct. It was so correct that Robin was the one to direct the finale, and she did such an incredible job, as always. And I mean, it's really a privilege to watch her shift hats so seamlessly. I mean, Robin is such a generous collaborator, and you know, it takes a really secure person to take in, you know, what people are offering and not be threatened by that, but to just make it better. And it was really beautiful because the last scene that we shot was the last scene of the series. Mm-hmm. So it really kind of felt like a play that way. I mean, we really ended at the end of the story, and it just felt so right, didn't it? I mean, you were. Yeah,
I also want to just sing her praises for a second because she won't do it. But as a director, as an actor, you can't ask for much more than that. She is, you know, you've heard the term actor's director. She really is an actor's director. Gets in it with you, and just always the most insightful, subtle notes that you're just like, oh, right. Should have thought of that when I was at home thinking about my last drive back to Baltimore. Just little things that can honestly change your entire performance for one scene. She's so insightful and so quick with it. And, you know, as Claire, you see her like this, but when Robin, the second she's done with her scenes for the day, she comes back in her jeans and her Converse and her leather jacket, and she's all badass and cool. And it's just so much fun to work with her and to watch and see how much she grew as a director on the show as well, the confidence that you had, and it's been a real honor, man. You can call me anytime. I'll come.
Your check's in the mail. Thanks for that.
I'll work for her any day.
Yeah, I mean, I think Melissa hit it, because, I mean, seemed so right and copacetic that Robin was directing the last episode, even the last scene. And I will say, there is a collaborative aspect to it, but we did take our lead also from Robin, because there was a sense of responsibility to the story, to the crew, to the audience, to the characters, to the work that had been done over 5 years. So you talk about pressure. It wasn't pressure, it was an acknowledgement of that responsibility, and to try to finish this thing with integrity and true to the DNA of the show, true to the story we've been telling, true to the truths we were experiencing together as artists, and as people on that set. So, I mean, we really did take our lead from Robin as well. So, it's not just collaborative, but it comes from the top as well.
And there are a lot of laughs, believe it or not. It's very, despite the fact that it's this dark show, there are a lot of laughs on set, which
It's a lot of
helps
fun.
the work.
Was the end something that had long been in mind in terms of getting to the very end, not how you get there?
I think there was a feeling, an idea of what the end should feel like, but as far as a specific end, no.
And look, these two really, know their characters at such a deep level. So they were our very crucial collaborators. We talked a lot about figuring out the right way and all the permutations for how this thing should end. That really, hopefully felt true to each one of their.
Us four had many, many conversations.
Yeah.
about the ending over
Well,
a period of time.
I definitely want you to answer this, because you tend to, you don't, spoil things, as you said. But the ending, of course, you can't tell us what happens, but what should we expect, and how will it make how did it make you feel, how they all ended up?
You're good.
Robin.
Nah.
God, it's really hard to not give it away.
It's impossible.
The show is about the battle for position of power all the way around. So who wins?
That was great.
And I will say that it's so beautifully macabre. It's really beautiful. Can I just say that? It is. It's like, that's so moving and generous and so macabre and so dark.
What she's saying is it's very House of Cards.
They did such a great job coming up with, it's just, it's going to shock the shit out of you, basically.
That's great. Well, we have some audience questions I want to get to. To Robin, what made you decide you wanted to go behind the camera and direct?
Having to keep my mouth shut for the last 15 years as an actor, going, that's not the way to direct that actor. That's, you're bursting at the seams. Yeah.
Kind of aligns with your character story?
Being a control freak, you mean?
No, speaking her mind.
Yeah, of course.
To Melissa and Frank, the political climate has changed so much since the first season. How much of what has been happening has made it into this season?
Say that again, sorry.
How much of the political climate has made it into this season?
I mean, I don't know if there's like a quantitative answer to that. Like I was saying before, we try really, as the writer's room with these great writers we've had every year, we invite consultants and experts in on a weekly basis just to dialogue, just to have a conversation. And in a way, they're in touch with what's happening, what the climate is, and we just feed off of it. And we feed off of it to serve the story. We don't try to force the story into what we hear. We just see what we can use.
But you guys would also come up with ideas that were very dramatic, and you would say to those consultants,
Right.
if this occurred, could it happen? Is it feasible? And yeah, absolutely it could. Has it happened? No, look, let's write it. Let's write it in.
Absolutely.
But you did have to consult whether this idea would be feasible or not.
Yeah, we always wanted to make sure it was at least possible.
Yeah, and I think the show's always been interested in sort of the seams of the institutions of democracy. Like where are those limits? You know, where are things? And I think you know, over the seasons,
Yeah, it's been pushed.
all branches of government, you know, we've tried to sort of explore the edge. And yeah, real life is of course giving us a run for our money.
The next question is, what was the most important part of turning Claire into a fully fleshed female character? How did you humanize her? And Robin, you're my hero, is the last note.
That's for you guys, right? I mean, about humanizing. That was always part of the discussion from season 1, was David Fincher. I said, I don't know female politicians, and I don't want to know them. You know, I wanted to build my own character. And I said, but I don't really know her outside of this template idea that she's Lady Macbeth and Francis was Richard III. Mm-hmm. And I said, can you just give me something that I can chew on, and outside of the Louboutins and the Prada dress, which helps so much, by the way, putting on that stuff. And
Yeah, you found her physicality.
I found her physicality, and he said, you, as Claire, are a bust. You're that marble bust that sits in the Capitol. And you're kind of an anonymous bust. You could be that president or that leader. You're not quite sure who she is. And then slowly, as these seasons unveil, her veneer will start to crack, and you'll see the human inside her.
I mean, I gotta say, it's pretty great. I mean, there's so much stuff that Fincher laid out in that first season that became opportunities for us in this last season. Like to depart from, to break with, to play with, to finally try to reverse. And so the minute Claire Underwood decides to separate herself from Francis or whatever arrangement or relationship she had with Francis, she's forced to actually try to define herself to us. So it becomes a great opportunity for the drama, for dramatizing.
And I think what's interesting about Claire, I mean, I sort of think of her as Lady Macbeth and Macbeth.
Right,
Like,
yeah, exactly.
I think she's kind of got both, which is, you know,
Yeah.
endlessly interesting to watch.
It's
Yeah.
so messed up. So messed up.
To Robin and Michael, what was your favorite scene to play from season 1 through the end?
Oh, wow.
Wow, that's interesting.
Up until this episode. Sorry.
Up
thank
until
you.
the second?
Up until this
Hi,
episode.
Chad. You mean from season 1 to the end?
No, from season 1, episode 1, till now, till this.
To the one we
Till
saw.
before season 6.
Because we can't talk about this
Right.
one, so.
Right.
Favorite scene you can discuss?
Because I would say one from this season, but I'm going to go back to 3 with Rachel, that the desert scene. That was just so much. You know, we all went. We took the crew to Santa Fe. We shot everything in Baltimore except for a few days every year, one day in D.C. And we went, the whole crew went to Santa Fe. And I could pick a number of those scenes, but probably the one where I stop the van and turn around, and then what happens after that. What a talented kid she is, and not kid, young woman, whatever. A lot younger than me. She's so great, man, and we had we just had a great time getting into that. But that was a haunting, crazy, fun scene to do.
We always go to the most haunting ones.
You know?
That was your favorite. What does that say about us?
I know.
Because I was just like, yeah, when you killed her. Mine was the same as fucking Tom Yates to death. So much fun.
That is such. I hope someone quotes that somewhere. Fucking Tom Yates to death.
Somebody had to.
Well, before we let you go, what is the main thing you guys are going to miss about your characters and something you will take away from working on this show?
You want me to go? You want to go first?
I'm going to miss her clothes.
Yeah, definitely some of those ties. But no, I'm going to miss the headspace that I allowed myself to get into. I allowed myself to be alone many days during the week to prepare. I allowed myself just to be by myself and do nothing but think about what I was going to be doing at work. And I don't ever allow myself downtime. I forced myself to do that when I was playing this character, and I already miss that alone time. I feel like every minute of my day is always consumed with something, whereas with that I was given permission to be alone and to be by myself in my own head. So I already miss that. And the ties.
I mean, I'll say, I mean, the collective approach to how to work on every season and how important that was for this season, just as in a response to how to deal to adversity or whatever comes your way, that just together, head down, let's make our response the best work we possibly can. It's the only response. It's something I hope I take to every other job I do after this. So it's something I take away, something I learn, and something I take away, and something I'm really happy and feel fortunate that I got to experience.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And yeah, it was just such a privilege to work with such, talented, but also fine people, people, just really great people doing great work and bringing everything they had to, their particular task. And that was like straight on down, I mean, there's a lot of hierarchy in this business, but I don't think the set felt like that. I think we'll miss the relationships and the people and the care.
Yeah, the family collaboration. You don't get it on every show.
Yeah.
It's so true. Yeah.
Could always be a movie.
True.
Do you have anything else to add?
I just hope you enjoy the ride, because it's definitely, it's a roller coaster, this one.
Thank you so much, you guys.
you.
We can't wait to see it.
Thank you. Thank you.